Hello, and welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
This is the podcast about murders and so much more. We will talk about anything strange, anything that goes bump in the night, and pretty much anything that amuses us.
And on that note, we need to mention that this podcast is not safe for work or delicate ears, so do be discerning who you listen to it with.
We also want to let you know that you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so look for us there.
I am Shannon Lawrence. I am a writer, mom, wife, student, procrastinator, and you can find me at thewarriormuse.com.
My name is MB Partlow. I am a writer, an avid reader, an organizer extraordinaire, a mom to kids, cats, and a dog, and I call bullshit when I see it.
Hello.
I was going to say, often you catch me halfway through a laugh when
I start it.
So
it's not my fault you laugh all the time.
I'm
so
giddy.
Happy, so giddy.
Or I'm an idiot. You know, I'm sure there are people who would be like, yeah, it's that one.
It's that.
But you know what I say?
Well, fuck them.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Nobody cares what they think. It's like kind of the end of the word. It's like it becomes a W-E or something. So they say, sure. But then I was trying to think of a word in the middle because when it's in the middle, it's just an H, right? It was like the R is an H or something like that.
Yes.
So I was getting those little things down and then I can start doing a Boston accent. But then I was watching that Below Deck show I talked about last time, and there was somebody from New Zealand and somebody from South Africa. And those are two dialects that I have trouble discerning between.
Yes.
And so I was like, it's kind of interesting. You have your, we'll call it the standard British, right? Because obviously there's a billion dialects there. And it's a little wider. And then you go and you get Australian, which is a little more pinched. Okay, so when you're trying to do it, it's a little pinchier. And then, here's what I figured out from seeing the two people talking to each other for a season, is that you have New Zealand is then a little bit more pinched than Australia, and then South Africa gets the most pinched. So, African, like the A's are, Africa. But your blick from Lethal Weapon 2 or whatever it is.
Yes, I knew exactly what that was from.
Yes, it's great. That scene is wonderful. I rewatched that again not too long ago, and I was like, damn, this is funnier than I remembered.
Now, which one of those?
I'm trying to talk my friend out of going to South Africa, and they bring in Danny Glover.
Which one of those is set at Christmas time?
Well, I don't know, because it's in California. Aren't they all kind of set at Christmas time? Or the first two are or something? Because I remember them having a shootout, like at a Christmas tree not a farm, but like where they're selling them in the city.
Oh, at the opening of the movie. I think that was one.
Okay.
Was it?
Mm, I think at least the first one is set around Christmas.
Because the bad guy goes to Murtaugh's house, and they're like, "Ha, we're not here," and the house is decorated for Christmas. Yeah. Because you know what's the best Christmas movie?
Die Hard.
Die Hard.
People write in finally. That's what we have to do.
Followed by, what's the Eddie Murphy movie? Trading Places.
Oh, yeah.
That is also a Christmas movie.
I still love that the two old guys from that are in, was it Coming to America that they show up in again? As homeless.
That was quite satisfying.
It was great.
So yeah, you know what we'll be watching. Because the second Die Hard, which is not as good a movie,
is also Christmas.
It's also Christmas, but then you get to the third one, which is the one with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, New York City.
And that is, there's no Christmas connection there at all.
No, isn't it kind of hot because they're running around the city? I don't remember. It might be a hotter time. They're not.
It's better weather.
Better weather?
Better weather.
Okay.
It's not sweater weather, it's better weather.
All right, then.
Speaking of accents.
Listen, it's been a lot of fun. I have been directing my brain at that right now to try to, all right, I'm going to figure out these accents. I'm going to be able to tell the difference between New Zealand and South Africa eventually. I am.
Part of the problem is, it depends if you're watching something on TV, you can't get them to speak long enough for you to make the determination. Because if all they're doing is answering questions, yes, no, Uh-huh.
Right.
They need to say a couple of full sentences to get it.
I watched something last night. We watched F9, which was the most recent Fast and the Furious, which was fucking awful.
Oh, because you said F9, and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Now I do.
It's the latest Fast and the Furious. I guess it would be a spoiler, so I can't even tell you where after they already jumped the shark 20 times, really jumped the shark. But
they jumped the whole fucking aquarium this time? Not just the shark.
The shark jumped the earth.
Oh, God.
Anyway, it was just from the beginning, we were laughing and criticizing it. And I like these movies. Like, I liked them before. I like the cast of characters. I really love how Ludacris and Tyrese go at each other. Like, their snarky dialogue to each other kind of probably helped me carry through a little longer, right? But, damn, this was bad. But anyway, we were watching F9, and this guy, Charlize Theron, is in it very slightly because she was a bad guy before Cypher.
Oh.
And she's been captured. And, Charlize Theron is originally South African in real life. Yes. And so this character goes and he talks to her, and I was like, I wonder how hard it is for her to do this excellent American English accent that she does, when she's talking to somebody who sounds like they might be South African. But he said one line, right? And it was very pinchy. And so then later on in the movie, the character's talking about how he's British. And I'm like, that's not a British accent you're doing, but it's not quite anything I recognize either. I was like, it doesn't actually fit. So it was really bugging me because, again, I'm interested in these things. So I look him up afterwards. He's from Denmark. So he was Danish putting on a British accent. And that's why because like one moment it was Australian and then it was South out, and I was like, what is happening to his accent? So he was just very bad at the British accent.
So, speaking of action films.
Yes?
Have you seen Red Notice yet?
Yes!
I liked it.
I did too. It was good.
What is that on? That was on Netflix.
It was on Netflix with The Rock and Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds, of course. I mean, I saw who was in it and I was like,
I love it because I just wanted to see the scene where she beats them up. That's all I wanted. I don't ask a lot out of some movies. It was funny because a lot of times movies like this, to my taste, run too short. It's like standard, plot twist, standard, plot twist, done.
Yeah. This
just kept going. I felt like they gave the story enough time.
Yeah.
I did.
But it wasn't like overly long.
No. Not like Dune, for example.
Still haven't watched it.
I haven't either. I did see the plot twist coming.
Which one? But yes.
The final one, yeah. I was like, uh-huh.
But Ryan Reynolds was Ryan Reynolds-y in it, which is all I ask.
Yeah.
The snark and the quick retorts.
Oh, yeah. And when what did he call Dwayne Johnson? He called him the slow guy.
He called him so many things, though.
And this one was not sweary like Deadpool.
No.
It was so funny. I was talking to some people. I was recently in New York for a weekend, and this woman I know, she's actually Frida's younger sister, and she said something about, because we were talking about Hubba Hubba Ryan Reynolds, as one does, and I said something about Deadpool, and she's like, I don't like Deadpool. I said, why not? And she goes, it's too sweary.
Oh my God.
Everyone at the table, including my sister and brother-in-law who had never met her before. Well, no, they have met her a couple of times. But everybody just stopped and looked at her and went, what? Her mother said, what do you mean it's too sweary for you?
That's kind of the point of it.
She's like, I just think it's too over the edge. And I was like, okay, Bella, you're crazy, but okay.
Yeah, that's exactly why I love it, really.
Yes. Oh my God. The things he says, I love it. Okay, now I have to write it down.
I'm still waiting for number 3. Come on. God.
That is one of my go-tos if I'm having a bad day and I need to laugh. It's a Deadpool movie or the female Ghostbusters.
Oh, the new Ghostbusters is out with Paul Rudd. So hopefully
yes, I will go see that. I think I'm going to try to take my husband to a movie at the
Roadhouse.
The Roadhouse.
Yeah. I was thinking give it a couple weeks, but not too many because it's a small enough theater that they move through the movies pretty fast. And their whole plan is to have it out before it's dead in the theater, right? So it's kind of a delicate balance right now because I don't want to be there with a bunch of people. But anyway, I think it's a perfect one for me to take the kids and let them experience Roadhouse and getting waited on getting to order your food from your theater seat is kind of a cool novelty.
It is.
Even for me, I've been there like 4 times now. I'm still like, when I push the button.
I just like the fact that you can put your feet up in the recliner and the seats are heated.
Yep. Yeah, that's
cinema.
I was gonna see Venom, the new Venom sequel in the theater, and it went too fast.
Yeah, you blinked and it was gone.
Yeah.
Some things are like that. I'm surprised we got to Antlers.
Yeah, but I think that must have been new there. I just knew it wouldn't be busy because it was nobody even knew about it. But Jeff and I saw No Time to Die, the new James Bond there, which was good. I mean,
I don't watch James
I can't even
Bond.
say one of the satisfying things about it because it's a big spoiler, but I enjoy James Bond.
So, Daniel
Craig,
thank you, is done being Bond.
He's been done being Bond, and then he kept kind of getting talked back into
But I heard now there's a new one. They have the next person picked out.
Did you hear that for sure? Because there's always rumors, and then it was like, is it a woman? Are they going to do Idris Elba now after saying he was too old before Daniel Craig? Are they going to...
I heard it was going to be Henry Cavill.
It can't be an American. Is he British?
He's British.
Is he? Okay.
He is British.
That's funny because there was a whole conversation. Some people, every time Ryan Reynolds gets brought up, there are people that have the edgelords that must post and say how annoying he is. No matter what conversation you're having on Facebook, somebody has to post and say how annoying he is and that they hate him. And they don't know why everybody likes him so much. And sure enough, somebody posted about something and somebody popped in with that. And I just thought it was funny because that used to be Keanu Reeves. To be clear, I have had a thing for Keanu Reeves and loved his movies since I was preteen, getting Teen Beat or whatever the hell the magazine was.
Yep.
And it always annoyed me because everybody would go, well, he can't act. He can't act. He's a shitty actor. And I was like, I feel like he's actually proven he can act. You just, like Drew Barrymore, he will always be distinctively him in a role. Drew Barrymore will too. People say she can't act. So anyway, it always bugged me. And of course, now he's like the darling of the interwebs. Now, nobody's talking shit about him. But it used to be, if you mentioned Keanu, somebody was going to tell you he can't act. He annoys me. I don't think he's that hot. And I'm like, that's cool. You don't think you have to think he's hot.
I mean, if you and I were having a conversation, I would say I admire him as a person. I don't have the same attraction to him that you do.
That's okay. I will climb. I will just climb right up him.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be anywhere near.
I do not. And that is okay.
That's the best way for it to be. That's fine.
Please God.
But I just think it's so funny is that there's certain people that I try not to negative post. I've become more conscious of that. So if I don't like the thing that's posted, unless it's somebody that I would joke with in person or something about it, then I'll do it. Totally different. But yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to negative post your post. I'm not going to come on there because I don't understand the people who literally reply to shit. Like when I post the houses I like and they reply just to knock the house.
Yeah.
And it's like...
I have an image in my mind, but I'm not going to say anything.
Right. And I'm just like, what? Is this your mission in life? Does it make you happy to just post negative things to people's positive posts? And so I try to be very cognizant and not do it.
I posted a question and said, please don't suggest this specific thing.
Yeah. I
saw that. Second response was that specific thing.
I saw that.
And I was
in
like,
the food group?
And I even said why.
Yep.
Because I spent like an hour there looking for something and it's all.
Yep.
So I was like, motherfucker.
What'd I tell you? Don't tell me it's in the trading post. I'm going to go there. Yeah, nope. There's always, in that food group especially though, people be like, but not this. And then somebody posts this, or they say, I want a small, privately owned restaurant. And then they'll post like, I don't know, Texas Steakhouse or something.
Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Texas T-But, whatever.
Yeah. And they're like, I don't want, I said, no chains. And they're like, what? They need money too. And then there's an argument in the comments. And I'm like, how can a food group be so argumentative? But then here's the thing. I started going and blocking the people that argue. Each of the posts, it eventually gets quieter. From here on out.
You're brilliant.
Yep. So, and even if they don't argue with me, because I rarely post, but I see them arguing with somebody or being an ass or saying something contradictory or whatever, and I'm like, block, and then they never show up again and never have to see it.
Oh, I'm going to do that. I'm very excited now.
And then the angels sing.
Yes. Oh, you know what? There was another place I got off of there. It was Altamar 2 Mexican restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
On South Circle. It used to be the Queen Bean.
I didn't go there either.
Well, that was years and years ago. But so we went and everybody was raving about it's really good Mexican food. It's really good Mexican seafood dishes. And I had, so of course I did not order seafood. I don't know why. I had the best fajitas I've ever had in my life. And the salad that you get with it is a real salad. It's not 2 shreds of lettuce and a tomato dot.
And 1 carrot shaving.
Yeah. It was a real full-size salad. And the beans were good and the rice was good. But the fajitas, oh my God. Because I have the worst fajita luck on the planet.
There's, what is it called? There's one I want to try and I still haven't gotten to, but it does the birria tacos that people keep posting where it's like stewed beef that's really tender and you dip it in like this sauce. So anyway, I really want to go try that. I think it's called El Rey del Taco 2 or something like that. Like the king of the tacos. But I don't know. Well, no, here's the thing. I have to go find it again.
If it's the one I'm thinking of that they just posted.
Yeah.
Now, it could have changed. Joe and I went there, I would say a year, before the shutdown.
Okay.
And we just looked at each other and went, eh. What we had was very mediocre. Now, they did have a salsa bar, and that was really good. But you know what? I saw that posted, and I was like, well, maybe they deserve a second chance.
All right. So it's a maybe place. But yeah, I was like, I just want to try those tacos once because people keep posting about how magical they are, and I like a taco.
I like magic.
I like a French dip sandwich, and it sounds kind of similar, but not French.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll try it eventually. But again, we very limited.
It's near me. Give
out.
me a call.
Okay. That's where we'll have our meeting for next season.
Yes. Done. And the angels sang.
The angels sang.
Oh, so I did, and I'm going to slalom right into books.
Do it.
So, have you ever read, because you read Patricia Briggs, have you ever read a book of hers called Fair Game?
Probably.
So
is it in the same Mercy Thompson?
It's in the Mercy Thompson universe, but it says an Alpha and Omega.
Oh, I read the
novel?
First Alpha Omega novel, but I don't
think this was that.
Okay.
But God, it was good. Okay. I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked the characters I think I read maybe the first and second in the Alpha Omega series. The thing is, I got away from all my series that I was reading religiously. So that included the Dresden Files ones. Like I just stopped keeping up with some of them after Kelly Armstrong finished her Women of the Otherworld series and moved on to different things. I've been really bad about keeping up with because her books I always bought right away. And then the Janet Ivanovich books I bought right away. But then she started breaking out into other kind of series too.
And I didn't write down what it was, but I reread, or I don't know if it was a reread, The Otherworld, Kelly Armstrong. I read one of her books, and I thought, it was one I hadn't read before, so I thought, okay, I have jumped too far ahead in the series, and I don't know what's going on.
Yes, because it is an order. So
yeah, but you know what? That would be delightful to go back and read all of those.
Oh yeah, because I think I went back and read the first one, which I think it's Bitten. But it might, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
And I really loved that series. I was hooked on that series.
Yeah.
I loved the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And she introduced, and it didn't turn into weird porn like Laurel K. Hamilton's series did. Yes. That I actually was my gateway drug was the Laurel K. Hamilton series. Yep. Guilty Pleasures, I think, was the first one on that. Possibly. But I really liked it. And then it went... Yep. It jumped off a cliff or something, and I was like, I can't.
And a lot of her fans went with her and loved it, and I mean,
absolutely, and that's
I miss the mystery element of it, the whole problem to be solved that isn't a sexual problem.
It was suddenly how many different were animals can she screw? How many can she do at one time? What one person can she have a super complicated, jealous relationship with?
And how many people can she have sex with in public?
Yeah.
At one time.
And I was like, I don't understand the point anymore. Okay. So if I want some porn, I guess I'll read this. But I don't even read romance, let alone erotica. So yeah, I and also the writing did go downhill in that because I tried one from the library like a couple away, and I read it and I went, my God, what happened? She forgot how to write because suddenly the writing it wasn't even the story. Like the story was improved, and the writing was awful. And I don't know if that was just one of those a deadline hit
because that happens.
Yeah, I just have no idea, but that was it. That was my last chance.
There was, did you ever read the Diane Mott Davidson books?
Yes.
Okay. I loved those. They're a mystery. I'm writing down.
Yeah, she's a caterer. And then.
Like in Vale or
Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Because that's where she lives in real life. I think
But there's one book in that series that I picked it up and I'm like, what happened to you? Not in an accusatory sense, but it was really a depressed. Goldie, the main character, is like crying throughout the entire book, and I was like, "Who hurt you? And what do we have to do to make this better?" Because there were always some serious topics,
yes,
but it was also had a lot of funny, kind of slapsticky.
Yeah,
not as much as
it was in general a pleasure to read.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden that one, I got to the end of it and I'm like, I just want to put a blanket over my head. but the next book in the series was right back to where it used to be. So
yeah, I'm probably assuming she's still putting those out. I'm behind. So
I don't think she's put one out in a while.
Okay, good. Because then I haven't really missed something. I tried a couple other, and I don't remember the writers, but I tried a couple other that were kind of similar, the food-based mysteries where you would get recipes, and I just didn't enjoy them the same.
I am very, very particular about food-based mysteries because if they get a detail wrong, I'm just like, I can't read it. I'm sorry.
One of them was I think it was focused just on baking. So not cooking, but baking baked goods. And those I actually did. I read through a couple of them from the library, but I didn't like them enough to go out and buy them like I was Diane Mott Davidson.
I like Joanna Fluke.
I think that's who I was reading who did
she has a bakery. There's like the Strawberry Shortcake Murders or something. But
then Janet Ivanovich started writing a series with a baker. Yep.
I missed
one of her new. And it's like witchy though, because she adds supernatural into it, so it's kind of like her. Does she just
write while she's sleeping?
She must, because she's also writing with somebody, like a spy series or something. Yeah. I don't think I've read that one yet.
I know I have not.
So many things to read, so little time.
I know, and then I sometimes have to go back and reread something I've already read. Sometimes it's a comfort thing. Yes. It's like rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to reread
something.
It's
been a while since I reread something. I keep thinking of things. Also shows that I want to go back and rewatch. Because there's a character in in Ray Donovan that's from the show The L Word. It's his female assistant person. Like, I don't know what to call her. She's not a secretary, folks, let me tell you. But she takes care of his shit. And I really liked her. Yeah. In both shows.
Oh, okay.
Like, she was probably my favorite character in the L Word.
She was a good character.
Yeah. So, now I found out that the L Word put out an additional couple seasons many years later, and that's why she left Ray Donovan. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I can get 2 of those. Not all of them, but 2 of those on, I think, Amazon. So I'm going to go check that out. So, yes. But then I was like, I need to rewatch all of the L Word probably first before I go to a show that then started years later. I don't know.
I feel like I need to rewatch all of Schitt's Creek.
I started, but then I found Psych on Peacock. And that's definitely a comfort watch for me.
Yes.
Because I adore them. And they make me laugh.
Yes.
Jeffrey just puts that on. I'm down. He's like, I'm going to put on Psych. And he does.
It is so, and I love it because I love the guy who plays his dad. Corbin
Burnson. Yeah. Yeah. He's such a dick, but he's funny.
Yes. He was a much bigger dick in LA Law.
Oh, really?
Oh, he was.
I remember he usually has played like in movies and stuff. That's his role. He has the look, I guess, to be a jerk.
And jerk face. His mom was also an actress. She has passed away in the last 2-3 years, I think. Oh. She played Catherine Chancellor on The Young and the Restless.
Oh, interesting.
There you go. There is your trivia for today.
I started rewatching X-Files.
I saw that thing where I bit his eyeball.
Yeah.
And I was like,
she was like, I got a little too, what is it, intimate with a guard or something like that. I bit into his eyeball.
I got a little too enthusiastic.
She said I meant it as a term of endearment or something like that.
It's like, whoa.
She's great. That was the Eves. It's still in the first season, I think. But it was their cloned women and then a set of cloned children. That's the new set of them. But I'm quite enjoying watching that again.
What really pisses me off is that at this time of year, starting November 1st, is it Lifetime? I think it's Lifetime. Does all the holiday movies.
Yeah. It
preempts all their other programming. Oh. So before I go to bed at night, I cannot get my Golden Girls fix.
It's on Hulu.
I know, but I like just popping in random. And getting 10 minutes of it.
There is something to that I miss, where like whatever shows you were used to watching like that, like King of Queens was something I might land on.
Yeah.
When I was just looking for something funny to watch at night when it was still cable or satellite or whatever. And I get that. It's that random choice and you're like, oh my God, that was such a good one. And you don't have to go.
That's how I watch. Because a lot of times when I'm cooking dinner, I'll turn up. We have a little portable TV in the kitchen. I'll turn it on. Sometimes I watch the news, but sometimes I'm like, what's on? That's how I watch most of Mike and Molly. Mom, Two Broke Girls, and now I'm watching Young Sheldon because that comes on.
Okay. I watched all of those except for Young Sheldon.
The best ever episode of Mike and Molly is the one where they have their first date. So it's right in the first season. Yeah. It's in the first few. Her comedy is so flippin' funny in that episode. For anybody who hasn't seen it, he's asked her out and she really, really wants to go out with him because she thinks he's a really great guy. And she doesn't want to mess it up, but she has cold. Mm-hmm. So her mom gives her some cold medicine. So that makes her drowsy. So then her sister Victoria gives her uppers. I can't remember, some kind of speed.
Yeah.
I can't remember what, but her sister's like, here, take this. It'll perk you right up. So she does. And she is just loopy as fuck on this dinner date. When she reaches over and plucks the nose hair out.
I think that we should write to the streaming platforms and tell them that they need to add a random button so that you can, on all of their shows that they put up.
Yes.
For the old shows. And then that would make people happy. Also, speaking of Victoria, did you watch that actress's, American Housewife show when it came on?
Yes, loved it.
That one's great too.
Love it.
Yeah. They're all just nice little, half-hour sitcoms.
Yes, and I like the actor who plays her husband.
Yes.
Diedrich Bader. Just yes.
Okay,
yes.
Good, cool.
So, I think we're ready to.
Okay, I'm gonna go first.
You go first this time because I'm gonna gross everybody out.
All right, I'm doing the Normalmstorg Robbery. I don't speak Swedish.
I was gonna say bless you.
Is
this like a smorgasbord or horror store or IKEA? You do? No. You can say IKEA.
No. It's actually a square. Normalmstorg, whatever it was, square. Oh, and so it involves a bank on that square. Sources, history.com, Wikipedia, and Skeptoid.
Ooh.
Yeah, I looked at some other things, but I didn't actually take data from them, so... On August 23rd, 1973, a robbery occurred that would create a new, though unofficial, psychiatric diagnosis. Jan Erik Olsen had been serving a prison sentence for grand larceny, but while out on furlough, he disappeared. I have to tell you that learning, because we do it here too, furlough from prison really wigs me out.
Yeah.
They're like, it's okay, you killed this person. We're going to give you a furlough for 2 weeks or whatever. Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, I'm like, no, but anyway.
So it makes me wonder how often that's happening around me. Is this person furloughed from prison right now? What was their crime? Do they intend to go back? Olsen, a safecracker and criminal since the age of 16, walked into this...
It was hilarious.
Okay. Here I go to butcher more words. Okay. Sveriges Kreditbanken in Normalmstorg Square in Stockholm, Sweden. He was carrying a coat in which he had a hidden gun, and once inside, he fired up at the ceiling and yelled in a fake American accent, "Blame the Americans. The party has just begun!"
Well.
Yep. One of the bank employees managed to sound the silent alarm, but when a policeman responded, Olsen shot him. And it sounded like nobody would say what happened then. He was not one of the hostages. He was not dead. So I assume he shot him, locked him outside or something like that. Okay, but for fuck's sake, nobody would tell me. That's why I looked at a bunch of other sites and I was like, if you're not giving me new information, you can just fuck right off. So anyway, I hate it when I can't find something that I feel should be simple.
A detail.
So 4 bank employees were taken hostage. Olsen locked them and himself in a vault and set up, barricaded it so people couldn't get in. He made demands to the police for 3 million Swedish kronor, a getaway car, guns, bulletproof vests, helmets, and the release of his friend Clark Olofsson, who was in prison for being an accessory to the murder of a cop and for armed robbery. He also demanded that he be able to leave with the hostages to make sure police didn't shoot him, right? Like they always want to do in the movies. The police came forward with all of his demands, including Olofsson. Within a couple hours, they dropped Olofsson off at the bank with a fully loaded Ford Mustang, fully gassed, all that good stuff.
Wow.
But they did say, you may not leave with the hostages. You just come out, you and your friend. Olsen and Olofsson holed up in the vault, refusing to leave without the hostages for cover. They remained in the vault for 5 days. That's how long this lasted.
Oh my God.
With the police sending someone to check on the hostages. And the thing is, when the person went in to check, I can't remember if it was the second or the third day, the cop was like, they were actually super hostile to me and very polite with the hostage takers. So when they came out, they said, I don't think the hostages are in danger. There's like a weird, relaxed relationship going on in there. So that's just midway through. Anyway, ultimately not getting anywhere, the police went in with tear gas eventually. They had drilled a hole into the vault from above.
Okay.
And one article I looked at said that he had shot through the hole and actually injured a police officer in the face and hand.
Oh.
But that was the only place I saw that. So it was really weird. So I didn't know what to include. There was a lot of extra stuff on the Wikipedia, too. And I was just like, how much of this is true then? So I left a lot of that out. Because I just don't know. Because it wasn't in the actual, history.com. I feel like they should have better quality articles, but whatever.
Yeah, I concur.
So anyway, they deployed tear gas and they went into the hostage situation. What was unexpected was the fact that the hostages defended the robbers. And when the police came in and were taking them away, the hostages kissed and hugged them goodbye. One of the women who was on a stretcher said, I'll see you soon, Clark, to the one who'd been dropped off from prison. I mean, that was Kristen Inmark. So Kristen had telephoned the prime minister before the police busted in and said, you know what, I really, really trust them. I know that Olsen and Clark, called him by his first name, wouldn't harm me. So you should just really let me go with them as their hostage. It'll be fine. And then we can end this, And she said that she was more afraid of the police escalating things and them getting harmed if the police escalated things than of the actual hostage takers.
I have heard that.
Okay. And this, by the way, was the first televised crime in Sweden. It was the first time there was something like this being televised live as they're going through things and the police are there and all of that stuff. So the public watched with equal confusion the interviews with the hostages and stuff afterwards. And everybody was like, what? So Inmark's actions, Kristen Inmark, were so strange. They actually investigated to make sure she hadn't planned the robbery with him.
Oh my God.
So when they interviewed the hostages, it turned out the robbers had shown little acts of kindness throughout the hostage situation. For example, when Inmark was cold, Olsen put a jacket over her. When she had a nightmare, he comforted her. And when Birgitta Lundblad tried to call her family with his permission, so I don't know if they all got to just call and be like, we're okay. It sounds like it, though. She got really upset and distraught because she couldn't reach him. And he was like, no, keep trying. Don't give up. And so to her, this was his great kindness. Elizabeth Oldgren was claustrophobic. So instead of making her stay in the vault, a rope was tied around her. So she could, it was a 30-foot rope around her waist or whatever, so she could go walk around outside the vault to calm down. And then the fourth hostage was a man.
That's pretty friggin' accommodating.
It is. Yeah. The fourth hostage was a man named Sven Safstrom. And at one point during an interaction with the cops, Olsen threatened to shoot him in the leg. He was telling the cop, I'll shoot him in the leg if you do whatever. And he said it was kind when interviewed afterwards that the threat was just to his leg and it wasn't to kill him. And Kristen Inmark had actually, in that moment, urged him to allow Olsen to shoot him. She was quoted as saying, "But Sven, it's just in the leg." Okay.
It's only a flesh wound.
It's only a flesh wound. We watched that the other day. The hostages were troubled about their strange feelings of fondness for the robbers. They could not, just come to terms with the fact that they weren't angry at these people, right? And they were like, why am I acting so weird? And Oldgren went to a psychiatrist about it. They just didn't understand. They were like, we should hate them. They held us hostage for 5 days. They threatened our lives. Like, we thought we could die. So both men were charged with robbery, and initially both were convicted. However, Olofsson was able to appeal, stating he had no previous knowledge of the plan. He was not part of the plan. First he knew about is when they said, hey, we're going to let you go because your buddy is in the bank. And, and he was like, okay. And he said while he was there, his thing was do whatever to keep the hostages safe. You know, he was like, I went along so that I could keep these people safe. So whether that's true or not, who knows? But he was then. They rolled him back. And he won the appeal. Olsen served 10 years for that robbery. I don't know if Olofsson had to finish out whatever term he'd been in before they got him out. I would assume so. But maybe since he got convicted and he served, they consider that as time served. Anyway, he and his family, Olofsson, so the guy who had been in prison, became friends with Kristen Inmark, the hostage, and her family after the fact. Like, they all became friends.
That's bizarre.
And, got together for holidays and stuff like that. I will say that both men did commit further crimes in their lives. They were already career criminals, and that didn't change. So we're not talking about the cream of the crop. But I don't know that they killed anybody. So, I don't know. It was something like, in 2006, Olsen, the original hostage taker, knew that he had moved to Thailand with his wife and children or whatever, and he ended up moving back to Sweden
to Thailand,
in 2003, and he turned himself into the police for whatever warrants had been out for him before, or whatever the terminology in Sweden would be, and they were like, we're not looking for you anymore. Just let him go. So it was like, might have been pointless to live in Thailand that whole time, or maybe it was exactly what you needed to do. So while it isn't in the DSM, which is the diagnostic and whatever.
Oh, manual. Wow. I do not.
I used to know because I have a degree in psychology. So anyway, while it isn't in there officially, it is not officially seen as a thing. This robbery did spurn recognition of a thing called Stockholm Syndrome, coined by criminologist Niels Bejerot. And used far more by the press than by actual psychiatrists. Actually, the press and people that throw this out all the time. It's a case of Stockholm Syndrome. And it was actually originally called whatever the frickin' Normalmstorg Syndrome was the original name. And then they were like, Stockholm is so much easier to say. So it's widely contested even today and was originally compared to shell shock from World War veterans. The rationale was that the hostages felt indebted to the people who had spared their lives rather than the people who had saved them because they had faced the possibility of death from the hostage taker and been spared, which made them this kind of benevolent power over them. There are 4 criteria generally used to observe and diagnose a case of Stockholm Syndrome for those who believe in it, and that is 1, the hostages believe death is a possibility. 2, they receive acts of kindness from their captor. 3, there are no outside influences, so they're only exposed to the captor's perspective.
Okay.
So I could easily see the captor saying, they're going to come in here with the guns blazing, and then people are going to get hurt, and I don't want to hurt you. That's not what I'm here for. It's the police. I could see that when you're hearing that enough.
Yes.
I feel like political opinions work that way on Facebook now. You hear it enough, it gets drummed into you, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So anyway, and they must not feel there is a way to escape. In looking into it more deeply, I wanted to do this because I kept hearing they're proving that Stockholm Syndrome isn't a thing anymore. But really what it is an ongoing conversation that's been happening since the 70s, right? And the first one, the hostages believe death is a possibility, is a big one. To me, that screamed PTSD. So I'm looking further into it because that is usually part of it. It states it shares the characteristics with things that are already diagnostics. It's misplaced attachment, which involves people exposed to highly stressful and dangerous situations for long periods of time, at which they pointed out, say, an abused wife.
Right.
She has misplaced attachment. That's why she will not press charges and defend him and all of that stuff. There is actually psychological reasoning behind it, not just she's afraid that if you're in the police custody,
right.
It's actually because you have this. And then the other one is complex PTSD, which is a kind of a separate thing from PTSD. It's just called CPTSD. If you ever see somebody talking about it, it causes significant changes to personality. And it's seen in people who grew up in abusive households, like children of abusive households, for example. I mean, these are both related, the two that I'm mentioning.
Isn't
CPTSD.
Thank you. You get into it and your tongue goes, no, you're fucking it up. Isn't that one repeated exposure? And PTSD is usually an incident, and CPTSD
sort of. I mean, it also depends upon the gravity of the situation, the extremity of the situation. There's a lot of things that go into it. So, but yes, it is long exposure. Both of these tend to be long exposure, which is why the Stockholm Syndrome kind of got its little separate thing, because it tends to be over a shorter period of time.
Okay.
But anyway, CPTSD causes significant changes to personality, behavior, identity, self-control, and involves exposure over that long period of time. So, but really I read through some reports and stuff like that. Stockholm Syndrome is most likely a version of CPTSD that happens in an intense short-term situation and plays out in those very specific ways. So basically, it doesn't need to be argued whether Stockholm Syndrome is real anymore, because it's already in the DSM as these two things.
Right.
So it's covered. It's just that it was just like people are used to hearing PTSD just about combat veterans, and it turns out some of the greatest sufferers are rape victims, for example. People got PTSD from just witnessing 9/11 incidents, because
yes, definitely.
One of the big factors in PTSD is fearing for your life or the life of others. And so if you're in a hostage situation, it's probably, in a way, because I don't want to belittle something, but in a way, like, here you are in an abusive household, it can blow up at any time and you're in danger, but there are lulls.
Right.
Okay. When you're in a hostage situation, it is an extreme, intense. So I could see that long-term damage that you see for someone else happening in a shorter term, right?
Yeah, because you don't have the peaks and valleys.
Right.
It's
just
peak.
This huge and often it's just straight up escalating, right? Until it ends. And so it makes sense. It makes sense when you actually look at it. So in the meantime, Stockholm Syndrome is often overused, misused, and joked about, right? I mean, like, and not even so much the joking about, but it's pretty easy for people to go, oh, yep, that's Stockholm Syndrome, right? Like, you stay in this job or whatever the situation is, and we go, oh, they've got Stockholm Syndrome. But PTSD is a serious issue, as is CPTSD, and that's most likely what it is, which tells me that there's ways to treat it, just like you would, but PTSD is not easily treated either. So I'm kind of doing a two-part, because this was just interesting to me. Again, my first degree was in psychology, and that's not like that love went away. I just had to be more realistic about what would help me work, right?
Yes.
But so I want to do the Patty Hearst, because that was the first example I know of where it was actually used as a defense in court.
Yes.
Stockholm Syndrome. So that'll be part 2 next week.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. And I kind of want to look at it now that with the PTSD information and see if that applies at all, or if it's completely different to what her situation was.
That'll be interesting. I am looking forward to that.
Yay!
So I'm going to, here's how my mind works. So this is coming out on December 1st. So I'm like, December, the holidays. There's a lot of holiday traditions, and I thought I should, and you know me, how I love to put together a series of things, like the whole Waffle House thing. I had so much fun with that, and I'm still talking about it to people, because people are like, that did not really happen. I'm yes, it did.
Oh, yeah, he did tie that door closed with his pants.
And left his wallet in them. That's the people are like, no, it happened. So I was like, okay, what can I do that's thematic? So originally, one of my favorite holiday movies now is Krampus. Mm-hmm. So, because the ending is so good. I mean, the whole movie is good, but so I thought, I'm going to look and see if there are any. This is actually, and I have some weird search terms, but I'm like, I'm going to look for wacky Krampus crimes. And I didn't really find, well, here's the thing. There are places that do fun runs. They do Krampus fun runs. And
so that's what comes up.
those have started getting out of hand because people have been injured because bystanders grab those big horns on top of their head and yank on them.
Because people are dumb.
Or the people dressed as Krampus after the run are drinking heavily and they start chasing people and beating them up. But that's not fun. Not that this is, but
people just ruin things.
They do.
That's why we can't have nice things.
So I thought, I wasn't finding anything under Krampus. So I thought, well, surely there's some kind of Christmas crime or Santa crime.
There's enough Santa horror movies.
So here I go ruining Christmas for you. So now here's what I thought after I read this. This gives an entirely new meaning to "You Better Watch Out."
Yeah.
From the song. Because not every Santa is a twinkly-eyed, gift-bearing, jolly old elf who wants some sweet carbs in exchange for filling up your Christmas stocking. These are all horrific stories, so I apologize for making light of them. I apologize in advance, because this is really... The first two are one thing, and the third one is just, holy, what the fuck did you just say? So the first one, in 2011, in Grapeville, that's what I said, Grapeville, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, Aziz Yazdanpana.
Aziz Light! Sorry, that just reminds me of that Fifth Element. Okay, go ahead.
The last name, I don't want to mispronounce it, but I'm doing my best. And his wife of 24 years, Fatima, had separated. They'd separated in April. She and their 2 children moved out of the house, which was apparently a big, nice house, and they moved into an apartment complex that wasn't that far away. Friends of the family said that there had been money issues that led to this because Aziz had left the mortgage business and just wasn't working anymore. Whereas he was unemployed while Fatima owned a beauty salon, and she may have had a second job in addition to that to support herself and the children. Police records show that, I'm going to call him Aziz because I can't keep saying that last name. It's too long. That Aziz told a friend that he and his brother-in-law, Hussein Zari, would lie to their wives about going on business trip when it would just all be hookers and blow. Well, it was hookers in hotel rooms. I don't know if there was any drug use. But the hookers, that was the thing. So it's believed that Zari told his wife, which is the other man's wife's sister, about what his brother-in-law was doing. Of course, he didn't confess to his own. Aziz really blamed his sister-in-law for a lot of what was going on. That his sister-in-law could tell her sister anything, and she would believe it, and she was against him. So now, at the same time, the records also show that Fatima was... she had told the apartment management when she moved in that she was fearful of her husband, that she was divorcing. And she also told a coworker that Aziz was not taking the impending divorce well. Because it was in the works, and like I said, they'd been married for 24 years. So,
yeah.
So on Christmas morning, Aziz shows up at his wife's apartment. His niece, Zara, sent a text to a friend saying her uncle had shown up dressed as Santa. And a couple other comments. There's open presents on the floor. There's wrapping paper scattered around. And he just pulls out a gun and systematically shoots everyone present.
Wow.
Yeah. Dressed as Santa. He called 911 and said, "Help me, I'm killing people." Motherfucker, you need help.
Yeah.
Before he turned the gun on himself. So Aziz murdered his wife of 24 years, Fatima, who was 55 years old, his daughter, Nona, who is 19, his son, Ali, who was 14, his wife's sister, Zora, who was 58, Hussein, who was 59, and their daughter, his niece, who was Sarah Zari.
Nice guy.
Yeah. So it's not bad enough you're going to kill your family. You have to show up in a fucking Santa suit to do it.
This is a fairly classic, except for adding in the whole being told on about the hookers thing. Classic, though, murder-suicide thing. Mm-hmm. He's unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shit, dudes, keep jobs if you're going to kill people.
So if you are estranged, my take on this is if you are estranged from someone and they show up at your house in a Santa outfit, lock the door.
Let them in. No.
Do not let them in. So they got divorced after 24 years of marriage. So in 2008, in Covina, California, You might have heard of this one because it might have even been called the Covina something. Don Pardo and his wife, Sylvia Ortega Pardo, divorced after a single year of marriage. It was not a first relationship for either one of them. The final papers arrived a week before the finalization. Yes, your divorce is complete. That arrived a week before Christmas. Money and financial support again seemed to play a large role in the aggravation between the couple. Pardo refused to get a joint checking account with his new wife because he insisted that she needed to support her children from a previous marriage with her own money, not his. What a peach.
Yeah.
So on Christmas Eve, Don showed up at the home of Joseph and Alicia Ortega, his former in-laws, wearing a Santa suit.
Oh my God.
Right? I'm telling you, if you did not invite Santa, lock the fucking doors.
Never let Santa into your house. That's crazy.
So the house is full of family because it's later in the evening. It's like 11 o'clock when he shows up. So it's mostly adults in the front of the house, and they're kind of, making these getting ready to go. They're getting their coats, and the kids are all in the back by the TV. So his 8-year-old niece, Katrina, sees him and runs to greet him. And he pulls out one of his 4 handguns and shoots her in the face. Mm. So while seriously injured, she did survive the attack. He then just sort of indiscriminately opened fire into the room. Again, he had 4 guns. And parents are scrambling to shove their children out of the way, to hide them. People are jumping out of windows. And it gets worse. People keep jumping out windows. Some people were shot randomly. So like I said, he just kind of opened fire, but some people he seemed to stand over and execute.
Okay.
So I believe at least his father-in-law, I don't know about his mother-in-law, but his father-in-law was shot like 4 times.
Yeah.
So So when he's done with the shooting, he unwrapped the Christmas package he had brought to the party. So inside was an air compressor that he had converted to spray gasoline.
Oh, lovely.
So he proceeds to use this to spray the house with gasoline and set it on fire. Mm-hmm. Pardo had made plans to escape on a plane to Minnesota. And I'm like, why the fuck do you flee to Minnesota?
Nobody wants to go there to find you.
Possibly. But I'm like, it's cold. It's winter. Anyway. So he has plane tickets to Minnesota. But in what I see is a moment of irony. Part of his Santa suit had caught on fire. So he had severe burns on his arms. Plus, the air compressor was the kind you strap on your back and has the spray wand. The heat from the compressor had melted part of his Santa suit to his back. So instead of going to the airport, he drove to his brother's house. I would like to point out his brother was not at that point home, nor was he home for the next few hours. Pardo shot himself.
At his brother's
house.
Nice.
I'm like, you fucker. You just compound
Could you just shoot yourself where you were going to burn it and then just clean up that mess?
Could you not have just done it in the car? And it was a rental car. A booby-trapped rental car because that exploded. The police had a robot trying to disarm it and that went up. Police found $17,000 in cash cling-wrapped to his legs under a girdle.
Okay.
I'm like, could you not just carry a fanny pack? I don't know.
You put it around your belly so you look more like Santa, stupid. All this planning ahead.
The whole girdle and the Santa suit are killing me. So, Pardo had no criminal record and no history of violence. So, in total, he killed his very newly ex-wife, Sylvia, who was 43. Her parents, Joseph and Alicia Ortega, who were 80 and 70 years old, respectively. Her 2 brothers, James, who is 51, and Charles, who is 49. Their wives, Teresa, who was 52, and Sherry, who was 45. His wife's sister, Alicia, and her son, Michael Ortiz, who was 17 years old, who was sleeping upstairs when the fire started and couldn't escape. So that's why I said people were jumping out of the windows. They were jumping out of the windows when he was firing the gun. They were also jumping out of the windows after the fire started. And somebody ran next door and they called the cops. It was a huge fire. They couldn't even, it was horrible because they couldn't even, some people were so badly burned they had trouble identifying who was who. So that's ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun.
He did have an assault rifle in the car.
It was funny when I did my story. You know, all they said was he had a submachine gun, and so I was like talking to my husband, and I was all, I feel like that's just vague because they don't actually know what weapon it was. We looked it up, and there was something called the Thompson submachine gun, but then there were other so whatever. I was like, I'm not going to mention what kind of gun it is.
They also found a bomb making. They called it a bomb making factory wherever he was living. So. 2 Santas down and 2 to go. Or no, 1 to go. So, 1 to go. So, now we're going to talk about Bruce MacArthur. So, Bruce was a doting and devoted grandfather. He was a dedicated landscaper. Oh my God, there's a total detail I think I forgot to write down, but I'll never forget it. So, when we get there, I'll include it. Dedicated landscaper and a jovial mall Santa. And he donated flower arrangements to charities. He was, I know a little more about this guy because there's a lot out there on him. He was born in 1951 in Lindsay, Ontario, and grew up on a farm with, now catch this, a Scottish Presbyterian father and an Irish Catholic mother. Ooh. Yeah. He had one sister, and grew up with a lot, up to 10 foster siblings at a time. They usually had between 6 and 10. But the family had a good reputation. Apparently there was no abuse going on. But the parents frequently fought over religious differences. Yeah. What a shocker.
We had neighbors who one was Jewish and one was, I think, Presbyterian. And the fights they had, we heard.
I'm like, if you can't get along with that difference, why marry them if you're just going to fight about it? I don't. Okay, people. So,
rape sex.
It would have to be. So Bruce went on to school. He got married to a woman named Janice Campbell. Bought a house. Worked as a salesman. Was in the garment industry. They had a daughter, Melanie, and a son, Todd. It was very middle class, kind of. You know, the house and the car and He was very active in his church. Because apparently he was working really hard to stay busy enough to avoid examining his homosexual desires.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was said that because at one point he was in therapy and he was never able to tell his father, who was very strict, that he was gay. So by the early 90s, he was having affairs with men. He didn't start there, but he did come out to his wife. And they stayed married for a considerable amount of time. They did enter a period of financial difficulty when he lost his job in the garment industry. And they had a lot of legal fees because their son, Todd, was obsessively making obscene phone calls to women he didn't know.
Was Todd aware that his dad was out? Or was this some weird
I don't know at that
reaction
point. He is later.
Yeah.
I don't know if at that point he was aware of it or not. He may have been. Todd had some issues.
Yeah.
So Bruce separated from his wife in 1997 and moved to Toronto in part for the gay community because they had been living in a small town, and I did not write down the name.
Nobody would know it anyway.
But it sounded like a different city. It's like Chicago, only it's Chicago, or
okay.
It's just a little bit off. So anyway, but yeah, he was there because of the community that the larger city would provide. He had a 4-year relationship with another man. A steady, stable relationship with another man, which it seems like broke up around the time his divorce was finalized. He and his wife did finally get divorced. He started therapy, he took Prozac, and he began work as a landscaper. So, October 31st, 2001, Halloween, also known as Gay Christmas, Bruce was invited to Mark Henderson's apartment to see his Halloween costume. And I'm like, I totally get that. If you have this totally kick-ass Halloween costume, you want to show it off. So, but once they got there, Bruce attacked Henderson from behind with an iron pipe and beat him unconscious. So Henderson regained consciousness, called 911, and was taken to the hospital. Bruce turned himself in and was sentenced to this fucking grab bag of censure. Okay, so he was sentenced to 2 years minus 1 day to be imprisoned, but he was deemed a low risk to reoffend. So his sentencing never actually included prison. He got 1 year of house arrest. You're looking at me. I had that same look on my face. So instead of actually serving time in prison, he got a year of house arrest and a 6-month curfew and 3 years of probation. He had a restraining order from the victim, couldn't go near the victim, couldn't go near the victim's place of work. He couldn't spend time with male prostitutes. He couldn't own a firearm for 10 years, but only for 10 years. And he was forbidden to use or possess poppers. The amyl nitrate, the drugs. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Even some of the police who were involved at the time said, this is the weirdest friggin' sentencing we've ever seen. We only can assume it's because they knew he was going to do this again, and they were trying to take away everything that
he could use.
Yeah, instead of just putting him in prison.
Okay.
He also had to submit his DNA to a database and take anger management classes. Okay, so that's in 2001.
I like the DNA thing. Everybody should be doing that.
In 2014, he was granted a record suspension, so the conviction was expunged from his record and wouldn't show up if there was ever a criminal background check. So obviously they knew he was disturbed and dangerous, but he had beat a man with a pipe, but never served a day in jail.
And, yeah.
So I'm going to skip some really fucked up stuff about his son, Todd, because Todd eventually went to jail.
Okay.
For making obscene phone calls. He did not hit anyone with a pipe, but he did end up in jail for a short time.
And he went to jail for obscene phone calls, though. Okay.
He did have a hard time accepting that his father was gay. So when he was paroled, part of the condition of his parole was that he was forced to go and live with his father for 6 months.
Oh.
His father, who had papered an entire bathroom wall with photos of young men with erections.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
That's totally normal.
And this is not a story about how Todd turned out fucked up. This is the story about Bruce, who's been given every second chance in the book.
Bruce, you disappoint me.
Bruce. So, I'm not going to talk about... Because this is a long case. There were 2 task forces because there were some disappearances, and then it died down, and then they started happening again. Guess what? When it was a white man, they really started paying attention.
Oh, I see.
Between 2010 and 2017, a total of 8 men disappeared from the so-called gay enclave in Toronto. The investigation progressed through 2 separate task forces before they finally pieced together evidence pointing to Bruce's vehicle. That's where they went first, which eventually led to Bruce. And it was DNA evidence that they found. So when they went to his home to arrest him, they actually had his home under surveillance. They make this sound like it was just a lucky coincidence. It was not a coincidence. They had his home under surveillance, and they were waiting, and they said, if we see him go in with a man, just the 2 of them, we have to go in.
Okay.
And that's what happened. So when they go in to arrest him, they find a young man chained to the bed who was shaken but uninjured because nothing had happened yet. They also found what I would call digital scrapbooks. That was not the phrase that the article used, but digital scrapbooks documenting the men that these 8 men that he had captured, tortured, killed, and defiled.
Great.
Yeah, the fun never stops.
But he didn't paper his bathroom with those ones.
No.
Oh, good.
So besides tying up his victims and torture them, he perpetrated what is a term, which I know that you know what it means, which is called overkill.
Oh, yeah.
So
it sounds like, sure, he accepted he was gay. He obviously hadn't accepted that he was gay because he's targeting these men and he's using overkill. This is still him having anger issues over it.
And overkill, for anybody who hasn't heard the term, so you can kill someone by stabbing them, or you can strangle them. Overkill is when you strangle them and then you stab them 87 times.
Right. It shows a personal rage reaction.
Yes. It's much more than is necessary to simply kill them. It's not like you're trying to kill them and take their wallet. It's a lot of rage. Then after they were dead, and again, I'm not going to go into great detail here, he would play with them and pose them for more photographs.
Yeah.
Some of the men who identified as bears, which is masculine, hairy, gay men.
Hairy, yep.
He would shave their beards and keep the hair in Ziploc bags as trophies.
Yummy! So he liked the bears.
I don't know if he actually liked anybody.
Feelings for the people who were bears.
They were not all bears.
No.
I will point out. Also, they were not young men. I mean, they weren't like ancient. When I tell you the victims, I will also give you their ages. Not only did he keep their hair as trophies, remember I told you he had a landscape business? This is the thing.
Here it comes.
This is a piece I can't remember. I didn't type, I guess because I thought, there's no fucking way you're going to forget that. He buried body parts in the landscaping.
Okay, I've heard of him.
At where he lived at the apartment complex, at his customers.
Yes.
They had to thaw the ground.
And what year was this all about again?
They went disappear. The men disappeared between 2010 and 2017.
I heard
so this is like in 2018, 19.
When it hit the news, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was the detail that stuck out to me was his customers.
He cut them up, and because there are pictures of that.
Yeah. And
buried their body parts around town. Yeah. So this happened. So there were some disappearances, then a lull, then more disappearances. So they weren't even suspecting him of that first set of disappearances at first, but they started finding DNA evidence to link him. So his victims included Andrew Kinsman, who was 49, and he was the last one killed. He was coincidentally the only white man. The others, there were a lot of East Indian gentlemen. Selim Essen, who was 44, Majid Kayan, who was 58, Sarush Mahmoudi, who was 50, Dean Lisawick, who was 43, Skandaraj Navaratnam, who was 40, Abdul Bazir Faizi, who was 42, and Karushna Kumar Kanagaratnam, who was 37.
Bruce was white.
Yes.
Okay. So it's interesting to point out because he's clearly a serial killer.
Yeah,
but he had a different main victimology.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are a lot of theories out there.
Which I wonder if that's like why that's who he's attracted to, or did he have political type, issues, racism against them?
And he had a lot of relationships, like public relationships with other men. He was a regular in gay bars, and people would be like, "Oh yeah, we know him." They couldn't. Some people who, when this came out, could not believe it because they were like, "Yeah, he's just this friendly guy who comes in, he dates."
It's just like the serial killers who go after women.
And they're married and have families and their wives never know.
It's the same sort of thing, but that's the type of person then that has that link with them, right? And that intimate link, and that's who they go after. So it's like the same thing, but that makes me curious about the types of men. In
February of 2019, which was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming up on 3, but Bruce was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years, at which time he will be 91.
All right.
So they didn't think there was the need to say no possibility of parole because they didn't. And as of April of this year, he is still alive and in prison. One newspaper, I can't remember which one. And I thought this was a bald thing to say. They're like, he's overweight and a type 2 diabetic. What are the chances he's going to live that long?
Oh, okay.
I was like, alrighty then. That's
Evil lives forever.
Yes. I don't even think I listed my sources at the beginning because I had to. It's like, oh my God. So
let me get to the Santas.
Let me fuck up Christmas for you. So my sources were Thought Catalog, Wikipedia, no kidding, CBS News, the Dallas Morning News, and Murderpedia. Murderpedia has, which one was it? It was the second one.
The big police one. That he went to his brother's house.
Yes, and he set the car on fire. There are tons of pictures of the house while it's on fire, the car, the rental car before it blew up, the rental car after it burned up. It was just a lot. So yeah, I was just like, oh my God. And that was the thing. They were like, he's a grandfather. He's a
mall Santa.
He's a mall Santa. In case you're wondering what the connection was, he was a mall Santa.
He just didn't wear a Santa suit necessarily while killing people.
Although they did not mention that. And apparently some of the pictures he took, he was in. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right.
That one has been, because the other two are mass murderers. He's a serial killer.
Yeah.
So the other two have not. The one in Covina did have quite a big write-up, because anything that happens in California is big news. But there's so much. There's so many rabbit holes you could go down with this last one, because they were talking about ignoring for a while. Because it started in 2010. That was not that long ago, people. But the LGBTQ plus community being ignored, their concerns being ignored, not taking them seriously when they say someone is missing. The fact that,
God, yes.
The fact that it wasn't until a white man went missing that they did something. Although I will say, from reading the reports, the police, it did appear that the police were working hard on this, but I am not privy to that timeline. But at least one of the task force started before that. And they did have a couple of police officers who were on the first task force who did join that second one.
Yeah, the problem is there's a fine line, because there are some cases that really do get ignored if they don't get the right person. But at the same time, we don't have a window in to see them working hard on something.
Yes.
And one of the things, if you read Anne Rule books, for example, about these big cases like Ted Bundy, is that they're constantly being accused of not putting in the effort. Because, I think it's the Green River Killer, I think, that I read recently, within the last 2 years by her. But they were actively working, and there were a lot of, whichever one it was, there were a lot of Black female victims, prostitutes, okay? And so everybody was like, you're ignoring it. But they actually had task force, and they were working on it. It's just, if you don't get anywhere, and of course serial killers and that type of thing are the hardest to track down, because they usually have no relation to,
right.
It's not this familial thing where, it's the uncle or the family friend. And so it is hard to find somebody that is a complete stranger to the people they're killing. That is the hardest thing to find. And so, yes, they're always accused, and there's always pressure. And then that ends up being how things get fucked up and people get falsely accused, because the police are like, we have to find an answer because they're going to eat us alive. And it's just this,
went through
this cycle.
For time constraints, I severely shortened the investigation part, because video cameras were able to be used. What is the word I want? The cameras you see on different companies and on different street corners.
The security cameras.
Thank you. Security was the word that was escaping me. So they were able to get security camera footage that showed his van. Now, they didn't get a plate, and they didn't get his face.
So they have a van.
But they have a van, and it picks up the guy, and that's the last time he's seen. And I think it is. It's Wiseman. It's the very last man who was murdered. So that's where they start. And somehow they got his first name. They got the name Bruce. So they find out how many red vans of this make and model are in the city. And then they narrow it down. Well, there are only this many of this year. And then they narrow it down to there are only 4 that belong to men named Bruce. But you can't, just because someone owns the same type of vehicle that was used in a crime is not a reason to call them in. It's really not, no matter what you see on TV.
Yeah.
So they had to track down the vehicle, which he had sold. Mm-hmm. So they had to approach the new owner and get permission, because the new owner was not a suspect. They had to get permission to take the van apart and examine it for evidence. Then they had to track this guy down. Then they had to start and they detail it for Wikipedia. It was a ton of details about they had to get I just have no words today.
Warrant?
Thank you.
Okay.
That was the word. Thank you for knowing me well enough. Shannon's just going to fill in the words.
Some words out.
But, they had to get a warrant so they could do this.
Yes.
And when they did this, they got this piece of evidence. So with that piece of evidence, they got a warrant to do this. And with that, they got this piece of evidence. Building up to that final warrant that let them have the security camera watching his house or his apartment. Oh, imagine being his neighbor and being like, well, that's why the rose bushes look so good out back.
Man!
Ugh.
Then the neighbor's like, well, I've got to keep them looking nice, so I guess I'm going to have to.
So, and I'm going to wrap myself out. So, my thing about not having the right words today, I told my husband, I was getting ready to come over here for recording and said, I have to get married before I go.
He was it's just one of those days.
Yeah. He was like, do tell. Do I need to dress up for this?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've just become so skilled at this point of trying to detour then the conversation because the migraine makes me lose words. Right. And I get so tired of having to be like, what's that word? And stop a conversation that I will work mental gymnastics to work my way around so I don't have to try and remember that word to get where I'm going. And I will frequently, that's why if I say something that's a little off of what it actually probably is on here, and you notice, that's why, because I forgot the word. And I went, okay, I'm going to completely change the sentence I was saying then, because I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm over it. So that's why it happens. Thanks for ruining Santa.
You're welcome.
All right, people. Feel free.
Oh, wait.
You have to ask the question.
I gotta find the question. Oh, what are your favorite things to do in the winter?
Because we're almost there, folks.
Yes. It's not quite, we're not quite there. It's not officially, but start of December is the start of winter. Go watch your Hallmark movies.
It's official that you can start doing Christmassy things now. People will. And if you live somewhere that actually gets snow in December, which, believe it or not, Colorado really doesn't, then you might go sledding. We have a great sled hill near here. We always called it Digital Hill because that was the name of the company. And so it's just still Digital Hill to us because HP Hill doesn't have the same ring. But yeah, it's great. It's a great little sliding place. Everybody goes there and parks along the side of it. I really wish we could sled at our cabin because that driveway would be...
You would die at the bottom.
Primo.
You would die at the bottom, though.
We would just never stop because we would just keep going down. We have a gate, though, so we'll run into the gate.
Boom. We used to go sledding on Brabaw's Hill.
Oh.
Or across the street. There were lots of... Upstate New York's a hilly place. There are a lot of places to sled.
Yeah.
And when I learned how to ice skate, it was on a frozen-over beaver pond.
Nice.
It's also how I learned to dodge hockey players. It was one pond.
And later, how to catch them.
Nope, never caught any of those.
Oh, okay. I don't remember sledding in Maryland much. We would build snow forts and we would do snowball fights, and there was a shit ton of snow there, let me tell you, compared to Colorado in the actual winter. Colorado, you can get a random snowstorm in June or August or whatever, and yet for Christmas, you're like, well...
Did we get our pre-Halloween snow?
See, here's the thing. I've had 2 snows here at this house. But people in the rest of the city have not, because several people have posted it. And then in like a Colorado Adventures page, somebody was like, we just moved here and we were going to take Christmas pictures to send out on cards. And why isn't it snowed? Is this weird? And we're like, no, not really. She's like, where can I go to get snow? And they're like, go to a ski resort or something. Stop crying about it. Jesus. But anyway...
Oh, you could take
I had snow on Halloween.
You could take the tram up to the top of Pikes Peak. There's probably snow up there.
Yeah, there's got to be some snow up there, even if it's just patchy right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people were telling all sorts of... I mean, you can go try here, but none of us can guarantee you there's snow.
Go to Sears and have them pull down that backdrop.
Yeah, do that. And then she was like, I'm from Alaska. And we're like, oh, if you thought it was going to be like Alaska, that's your bad. First of all, you just came way down south.
Yeah. Did you not look at the longitude? Latitude?
Have you looked at a globe perhaps ever? I don't know.
They could go to the North Pole.
The fake one?
The fake one here, the
Yes.
amusement park. Because I'm thinking there has to be something with a snow backdrop there.
Yeah, they probably have something. I don't know.
I would think if you lived in Alaska, if you moved, you would move because maybe you were tired of snow.
No, she was bitching about it, and then I was done with I was done reading it.
Then you stopped listening.
It's almost the end of this year.
As you listen to this, well, if you listen to the day it dropped, it is December 1st.
Yeah.
Time to panic about Christmas shopping, if you do that.
Yeah.
Or time to plan your Krampus parties.
Time to plan your Krampus parties and put anti-touch mechanisms on your horns.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. Yes, I got that from an Old Navy ad.
Wow, okay.
Old Navy years ago had that ad. They used to have fun ads. Their ads are not so fun anymore, but it was Happy Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah.
Okay.
And I remembered it. That's a big thing for me. I remember. I can't remember the word warrant, but I can remember Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah.
Happy December.
Yes.
And
happy holidays.
Thanks so much for listening to us. You can find us on our website at www.mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com and email us at mysteriesmonstersmayhem@gmail.com. And we're going to head out of here and, just pretend to enjoy December now. My mom's birthday is in 3 days from the
My birthday is in December.
I know.
Yep. I'll be old. Not that old, but I'll be a little bit older.
I'll be older.
Yeah.
And I would tell the kids, they were like, are we going to do anything? And I was all, I just really don't give a shit about this birthday. I just turned 44. I don't give a shit. Like, all right. Admittedly, probably part of that is because I'm in a deep depression right now. And so deriving joy from things, I derive joy from the cake that we had, is not going to happen. But honestly, I don't think I've given a shit about a birthday for years because I don't want to go out and party. I don't want to do...
I like to go out and have a nice dinner, but it doesn't have to be... I love the warehouse, so that's usually where I go.
Okay.
So, not always. I've gone to, pizza joints.
I mean, we did our pizza thing last night, and today I was like, we'll just do my birthday today, and I'll pick something to eat, and it's probably going to be some fucking chicken tenders from Slim Chickens, because that sounds good to me right now, and I don't care. And I went out to eat for barbecue last week, so
Yay!
So, all right, guys, please like, rate,
yes,
follow, review, do all those good things that knock us up, not knock us up, but knock us up in
raise
the algorithms.
Our ratings. Please
so that other people discover us.
Don't knock us up. Don't knock us down.
All right. So
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.